She was only 22 years old, a rising hairstylist, a mother of two, a dreamer with her eyes on the stars. But within seconds, everything she was building was ripped away by chaos, by violence, and by a bullet. How does a simple fight on a sunny afternoon turn into a war zone? Why were so many guns drawn at once? And most importantly, why was Ruby Kier, the young woman, who styled beauty into others, left, bleeding on the concrete? This is the heartbreaking true story of Macayla Queen Patterson, better known online as Ruby Kier, a woman who had so much to live for, until one violent moment changed everything. If you're new here, subscribe to True Crime Simplified, where we break down shocking real-life stories, calmly, clearly, and always respectfully. Macayla Queen Patterson wasn't famous, not yet, but she was grinding for it. Every single day. To her clients, she was known as Ruby Kier, a rising hairstylist in Orlando, Florida with a golden touch and an eye for perfection. At just 22, Ruby had built a name for herself in the competitive world of beauty. She specialized in flawless wig installs, natural-looking lace fronts, and luxury extensions. Her hands didn't just style, they transformed. She had over 11,000 followers on Instagram, where her before and after photos regularly wowed her audience. Her energy was calm, her technique clean. She didn't just take walk-ins, she built a reputation, one appointment at a time. But beyond the ring light, Ruby was a mother first. She had two little boys, Messiah, age 5, and Zion, 4, young, innocent, still learning to pronounce their dreams. She juggled school drop-offs with salon bookings, bottle feedings with business emails, social media growth with silent prayers for peace. It was a balance no one applauds, but one every single mother knows too well. Her friends say she was faithful, grounded, and full of light. She believed in God. She believed in growth. She believed that despite the setbacks, she could rise, not just for herself, but for her sons. Ruby had dreams of celebrity styling, building her own product line, maybe even opening her own salon one day. And the truth is, she wasn't that far off. She had her own brand, kiersco.com, where she sold hair bundles and booked premium clients. She was doing what many talk about, and few actually achieve. But for all her ambition, Ruby was also human. She made friends. She had enemies. And like so many young people growing up in high-pressure neighborhoods, she got pulled into drama she didn't deserve. Drama that would erupt one day, on Mercy Drive, in broad daylight. And in her story far too soon, was a Friday afternoon, September 22nd, 2023, when everything changed. The sun was out. Kids were playing. Life in the Jernigan Gardens apartments, also known as the Palms or Windsor Cove, carried on like any other day in Orlando's Mercy Drive neighborhood. But beneath the surface, tension was building. Jernigan Gardens had a history, fights, noise complaints, a reputation for flare-ups. It was one of those apartment complexes where everyone knows everyone, and that's not always a good thing. That afternoon, Ruby found herself in the middle of a dispute. The details? Still murky. Some say it was personal drama. Others say she was targeted. What we do know is, Ruby was being jumped. Multiple people were involved. A crowd had gathered, and it was no longer just words. In the middle of it all, Ruby did what anyone would do. She called for backup. She reached out to her brother and cousin, asking them to come to the scene. She was outnumbered, scared, angry, maybe all three. But what she couldn't have known is that that call would set off a chain reaction no one could stop. By the time her family arrived, the situation had exploded. People were yelling. Some were pushing. The crowd had grown even larger. The atmosphere was charged, tense enough to spark with the smallest flick. And then, that spark came. Someone pulled a gun. The moment that gun came out, the tone of everything shifted. People stopped shouting. They started running. And then, a shot rang out. That first gunshot didn't calm the situation. It shattered it. In seconds, more guns came out. It wasn't just one shooter. It became a chain reaction, like dominoes of disaster. Multiple people pulled weapons. And suddenly, the fight turned into a shootout. Bullets tore through the air. Some fired out of panic. Some fired out of anger. And some may not have even known who they were aiming at. There were children nearby, families in their apartments, elderly residents watching from windows. But in that courtyard, there was no time for thought, just chaos. And right in the middle of it stood Ruby. She She had called for help, not for this. She didn't come to that apartment complex looking for war. She came to defend herself, to stand her ground. But what she faced was a battle she couldn't win. One of the bullets found her. And then, another. Ruby collapsed to the ground, blood pooling, life fading. Someone screamed. Others ran. And just like that, the gunfire stopped. 4 people had been hit. 3 would survive. But Ruby's wounds were far too serious. She was rushed to Orlando Regional Medical Center. Doctors tried. Paramedics worked. But there was no miracle this time. Macayla Queen Patterson, Ruby Carer, was gone. Shot down in broad daylight. On a Friday afternoon. In front of dozens of people. 22 years old. A mother. A stylist. A dreamer. Gone. Over something that never should have ended this way. Police secured the scene, but the damage was done. The brawl was over. But the questions were just beginning. The moment that gun came out, the tone of everything shifted. People stopped shouting. They started running. And then, a shot rang out. That first gunshot didn't calm the situation. It shattered it. In seconds, more guns came out. It wasn't just one shooter. It became a chain reaction, like dominoes of disaster. Multiple people pulled weapons. And suddenly, the fight turned into a shootout. Bullets tore through the air. Some fired out of panic. Some fired out of anger. And some may not have even known who they were aiming at. There were children nearby, families in their apartments, elderly residents watching from windows. But in that courtyard, there was no time for thought. Just chaos. And right in the middle of it stood Ruby. She had called for help, not for this. She didn't come to that apartment complex looking for war. She came to defend herself, to stand her ground. But what she faced was a battle she couldn't win. One of the bullets found her. And then, another. Ruby collapsed to the ground, blood pooling, life fading. Someone screamed. Others ran. And just like that, the gunfire stopped. 4 people had been hit. 3 would survive. But Ruby's wounds were far too serious. She was rushed to Orlando Regional Medical Center. Doctors tried. Paramedics worked. But there was no miracle this time. Macayla Queen Patterson, Ruby Carer, was gone. Shot down in broad daylight. On a Friday afternoon. In front of dozens of people. 22 years old. A mother. A stylist. A dreamer. Gone. Over something that never should have ended this way. Police secured the scene, but the damage was done. The brawl was over. But the questions were just beginning. The smoke had cleared. The crowd had scattered. But the aftermath of what happened on Mercy Drive was only just beginning. In the hours after the shooting, investigators locked down the scene. Dozens of shell casings littered the courtyard. Blood stained the sidewalk. The stories were all over the place, and so were the witnesses. Some ran. Some stayed quiet. And some recorded the chaos on their phones. The Orlando Police Department began sorting through the madness. What started as a fight had become a multi-shooter crime scene. And they needed to know who fired the shot that killed Ruby. The first break came quickly. That very same day, officers arrested Delray Shundale Duncan Jr., just 23 years old. He was identified through witness testimony and evidence as one of the individuals who pulled a weapon and fired into the crowd. He was charged with first-degree felony murder, attempted homicide, and other firearm-related charges. But police knew there was more than one gun. Witnesses described multiple shooters. The bullets came from different angles. This wasn't a case of one man acting alone. It was a brawl-turned-battlefield, and that meant more arrests were coming. Months passed. Investigators combed through surveillance footage, live streams, phone videos, and social media posts. They mapped trajectories, interviewed dozens, built their case. And then, March 2024, police announced a second arrest, Gary Lee Williams III, just 18 years old. He too was charged with first-degree murder. According to the case file, he was also seen firing a weapon during the courtyard shootout. Whether he hit Ruby or not, the law saw his role as contributing to her death. But the investigation didn't stop there. A third person was arrested weeks later. Their name was withheld, but they were also believed to have played a part in the deadly chain of violence that day. 3 shooters, 1 life lost, and a neighborhood changed forever. And while arrests brought some relief to the community, the truth remained. Ruby didn't deserve this. She wasn't armed. She wasn't attacking anyone. She was just trying to stand her ground in a moment that spiraled far beyond anything she could have imagined. In the wake of tragedy, everyone wants answers. Who's responsible? Who pulled the trigger? who brought guns to a fight that should have ended with words, not blood. 3 suspects were arrested, all of them charged with murder. But when you zoom out, it wasn't just one person's decision that killed Ruby. It was a chain of choices, each one escalating the next. Ruby wasn't a bystander. She was involved in the argument. But what she didn't choose was for someone to pull a gun. She didn't ask for a battlefield. She didn't start the gunfire that claimed her life. So who's to blame? Is it the first shooter? The one who fired blindly, knowing there were children, families, and innocent people in the crowd? Is it the others who joined in, turning a dangerous moment into a deadly one? Or is it the environment, the way guns have become quick answers in neighborhoods, already drowning in frustration? The truth is, blame isn't always simple. It was a storm of emotion, pride, fear, and firepower. And Ruby, a mother, a stylist, a dreamer, got caught in the crossfire of it all. When bullets fly, no one wins. Only graves get filled and dreams get buried. So while the courts will determine who serves time, the real punishment? That's felt by the children Ruby left behind. 2 boys, Macayla and Zion, still too young to understand what was taken from them, still too innocent to know the weight of what happened that afternoon. And that is the deepest cut of all. To the public, she was Ruby Keir, the hairstylist, the entrepreneur, the social media presence. But to those who loved her most, she was Macayla, a sister, a daughter, a mother, a friend. She wasn't just styling wigs. She was building a future. She juggled clients with classes, motherhood with marketing, survival with self-worth, and she did it with grace. Her business, hairstylist.com, wasn't just a hustle. It was her hope, a way out of the cycle so many young women fall into. She wanted more. For herself, for her boys. People who sat in her chair didn't just leave with better hair. They left feeling better about themselves. That was her magic. And it's that energy, that light, that so many say they miss. Her Instagram is now a digital shrine. Thousands of comments, prayers, memories, clients saying, "You always made me feel seen." Friends writing, "You were on your way." Family posting, "I still can't believe you're gone." Ruby's mother buried her daughter far too soon. Her siblings lost a piece of their world, and her sons will grow up with stories instead of memories. Macayla and Zion, 5 and 4. They'll never again hear her laugh in the kitchen. They'll never feel her hands in their hair. They'll grow up knowing her name, but never truly knowing her touch. And that's the cost no sentence can repay. When violence takes a life, it doesn't just take a body. It takes a future, a presence, a heartbeat, and it leaves behind a silence no court ruling can fill. Ruby Keir was more than a victim. She was a vision, a woman who refused to be average, until one moment of madness took her away from everything she loved. In the end, Ruby's story is more than just a tragedy. It's a reflection of how fast everything can fall apart. One argument, one gun, one moment that can never be undone. Macayla Queen Patterson, Ruby Keir, should still be here. She should be building her salon, raising her sons, smiling behind her camera, not remembered through a candlelight vigil. But her story now becomes a warning to all of us that ego, pride, and violence don't just destroy lives, they erase futures. The question now isn't just who killed Ruby. It's how many more Rubys will we lose before something changes? How many more mothers, dreams, and children must we bury before we choose peace over pride? This is True Crime Simplified, where we tell the real stories, the hard truths, and the names that matter. Backhand index pointing right if this story moved you. Subscribe, share it, and leave a comment below. Let Ruby's name live on in the truth, not just the tragedy. And to Ruby's family, from all of us here, we send our deepest condolences. Her light may be gone, but her impact still echoes. Thank you for watching.